Undulation is a defining characteristic of butterfly, and if swimmers don't get it right, they're never going to be able to swim as fast as they otherwise could. The challenge with undulation is that it's not necessarily about doing more or doing less, it's about finding the optimum amount of undulation, and that optimum amount can differ from individual to individual. To help you better understand how to find the optimal amount of undulation for each of your swimmers, in this video we're going to go through what undulation is, why it happens, and some of the considerations for finding an optimal amount of undulation. Hi everyone, Andrew here, helping you help your swimmers get faster. Let's dive into undulation and butterfly, and as always, I'll keep it simple so that you can understand the key concepts that you need to help your swimmers learn. Before we get into the video, let's take a minute to consider why undulation even happens in the first place. Butterfly creates a unique challenge in that both arms need to be recovered over the surface of the water at the same time. In freestyle and backstroke, swimmers can rotate to get one arm up over the water, but that option isn't available in butterfly because if you rotate on one side, that's just going to send the other arm even deeper. So the solution is lift the shoulders, lift the chest, and then recover the arms over the water, having lifted the upper body out of the water. And that is essentially the primary purpose of undulation. Swimmers have to find a way to recover the arms with as little effort as possible, and the easiest way to do that is to lift the chest, lift the head up out of the water. But of course, what goes up has to come back down. Now we have that wave that starts to happen as a result of the chest, the head, and the shoulders lifting out of the water and then coming back down. And of course, what happens with the head and the chest is necessarily going to affect what happens with the hips. So when the upper body goes up, the hips go down, and then that reverses. When the upper body comes back down, the hips come back up. So now we have a wave of undulation traveling through the body. So whenever it gets confusing as to what's happening, remember that undulation has to happen so that the arms can be recovered over the water. There's some other things going on. There's some timing stuff going on, and we're going to go over that in more detail. But just remember, the undulation happens so that the arms can be recovered over the water. If that undulation doesn't happen effectively, swimmers are going to be in big trouble. But as I referenced earlier, it's not just about more, it's about an optimal amount of undulation. And the more effective swimmers are at finding the optimal amount of undulation, they'll be able to reduce the amount of resistance they create as they move through the water, and they'll also be able to increase how much propulsion they create. So let's check it out. So let's start with our swimmer at the beginning of the stroke cycle, and they are relatively flat in the water. So what's going to happen here is in order to prepare to recover the arms, she has to make sure she's in position by the time that the arms finish the pull. So as we see here, she's going to start to lift everything up, start that wave of undulation as she begins the pull, so that by the time the hands are at the end of the stroke, they finish the pull, she's already got the shoulders up and out of the water. So by the time the arms have finished the pull, she's got her chest and shoulders up out of the water so that the arms can be smoothly recovered over the surface. The shoulders were still low in the water when she finished that pull. She'll be in a whole lot of trouble in terms of trying to get those arms over the surface of the water. So again, that wave of undulation starts right when the pull begins so that she can execute that arm recovery right when the arm pull is finished. She's got to be in that elevated position in order to get the arms over the water. So as we move through that front of the stroke, let's pay attention to what happens at the hips now. So as the shoulders are coming up, the hips are going to be dropping down, and so they're going to end up in this position. But then at the end of the pull, once the shoulders are up as high as they need to be, the swimmer is going to kick, and that's going to send the hips back up. That's going to get the swimmer a little bit more level in the water. And then when the arms recover, everything in the front is going to come back down and then go over the top with that undulation. And then a second kick, as the hands come over right there, is going to get those hips up even higher. So the kick in the second half of the stroke is helping to reverse the wave of undulation, send the swimmer back over the top. So again, the swimmer starts to rise. That's going to send the hips down. The kick there sends the hips back up. And then after the arms recover, another kick is going to send the hips even higher up and get the chest pressed down in the water. So the swimmer goes up for the pull, and then they come back down. So the kick is going to stop the rise of the upper body, and then it's going to help swimmers get back over that wave by kicking again to get the hips up in the front of the stroke. Then the shoulders are going to be down a little bit, and then we can start again. So the body is going to go up through the pull to set up for the arm recovery, and then the kick is going to help facilitate a return to a neutral position within each stroke cycle. And if the kick wasn't performing that key function, What could potentially happen is that the swimmer keeps elevating in the water, and that's going to create more resistance. It's going to move them out of alignment. It's going to be too much undulation. And so that kick can help to stop the wave of undulation, keep the hips from sinking even lower. So the kick is really important for preventing too much undulation after the pull and before the arm recovery. And the kick is also really important, getting everything back in alignment so that they can set up the next stroke cycle. So to recap what we've discussed so far, the upper body needs to rise in the water in order to get the arms out of the water and recover them smoothly and effortlessly. And the kick is helping to control that undulation, preventing it from being too excessive when the upper body lifts and driving the hips down to the bottom of the pool, which is going to create a ton of resistance. And the kick gets the hips back up into alignment, completing that wave of undulation, getting the hips a little bit higher than the chest, and that returns the swimmer to the starting point. Then they can raise the chest again, drop the hips, and so on. So the kick plays a key role in controlling the amount of undulation. Undulation can also be effective at helping swimmers get more out of their pull. So if we watch here, as she pulls, she's going to arch the back and lift the upper body. While that will certainly help her get in a position to recover the arms, it also puts the arms in a more effective position to create propulsion. So just like if you try to do a pull-up, most people will arch their back in order to create more force. The same thing can happen here during the pull. So by arching and lifting during the pull, it can create more propulsion than it otherwise would. Just put your hands in position here and just arch a little bit without pulling, and you'll feel that little contraction. You'll feel that extra power that you can create by using that movement. And the same thing happens in butterfly. So by timing the arm pull and raising of the body, swimmers can create more propulsion than they otherwise could if they just stayed level in the water. They're able to get more torque, they're able to create more force, and that means more propulsion, more power through the stroke. So not only is undulation important for recovering the arms, it can also help swimmers get more out of the pull itself. While this is more of a secondary consequence relative to the importance of recovering the arms, it can add a little bit more speed, help swimmers get a little bit more propulsion than they otherwise could. So we'll take a look at the same dynamics with one more swimmer. You can see here, she's in line, and to start the pull, she's going to begin to lift the upper body so that the shoulders are up out of the water as the arms finish the pull, and then she's going to recover them back in, and then the head, the chest, everything is going to come back down. So again, the upper body is raised during the pull to help get the arms in position to recover smoothly over the surface of the water, and then everything comes back into line. Now, if we pay attention to the kick here, it's going to happen here to prevent the hips from dropping even further, and then in the front of the stroke, it's going to happen to get everything back in line to finish that wave of undulation. And so the kick is really effective and really important for ensuring that, one, the undulation is controlled during the pull, and then two, that the wave of undulation completes so that everything can get back in line and the swimmer can maintain great alignment, minimize resistance as they move through the water. We'll watch the pull here. Again, lifting the upper body puts her in a really strong position to create a lot of propulsion through that pull. And the more propulsion she can create, the faster she's going to swim. So the key idea when it comes to helping swimmers go fast is that they do need to undulate in order to get the arms recovered over the surface with as little effort and as little energy and as much speed as possible. If they don't lift high enough, they're going to really struggle to get the arms fluidly over the surface. And if they lift too high, those hips are going to drop too low. It's not going to help them recover anymore, but it's going to come at a significant cost. There's going to be more resistance, and it's going to take too much time. So they need to undulate just enough to recover the arms smoothly and no more. And they can effectively manage the undulation by using the kick to keep the hips up right after the pull and also get the hips back up into position after the arms are recovered. Doing so is going to minimize the amount of resistance that swimmers create, and that means more speed. If you want to see more butterfly skills in action, just check out the video right above.